In New York, the trial of Sean Combs has started, and the star witness, Cassie Ventura, has taken the stand, and we got the details. In California, the Menendez brothers have been re-sentenced, making them eligible for parole. Will they get it? Kelly and I are going to discuss that. And in Louisiana, a woman convicted of an attempted kidnapping of a baby at a Baton Rouge hospital has been sentenced. We're bringing you that story, plus more today on the Crime Wire Weekly. I'm Jim Chapman.
And I'm Kelly Jennings.
What's up, Kelly J?
I am happy. It's we're recording this on a Friday, and it's pretty weather. I just got my toenails painted.
I can't say the same.
Well,
mine are definitely unpainted.
Mine have flowers on them now.
Right.
And diamonds.
And diamonds.
I've been,
oh my God.
Extra, baby. I got to look good for my baby.
Extra. You are extra.
My husband.
Right.
Not Jim.
Yeah, let's clarify that.
Yeah. He likes when my toes look pretty.
There you go. All right. So in the future, what we're going to do with this, we're going to continue to drop this on our individual feeds just until the first week of June. First week of June, when that episode drops, it's going to be on its own individual feed. So we're not going to have it on the feed that you're getting it on now. However, we're going to share some things to our social media, and we'll share the link. You need to go to that link if you're enjoying the show and follow the show, just like you do with our individual shows. It's going to be completely separate. We don't want to clog our feed and bog it down with a show that's completely different than what me and KJ normally do. So we're just introducing it to our fans right now. We're going to put it on its own feed, and it'll be its own individual show.
And we appreciate all the feedback. We
100%.
Have so much wonderful feedback.
Yeah.
We have the best listeners, really.
We really do. All right, well, let's get into the world of crime, and I'll start us off in New York. And we're going to talk about the Sean Combs trial, which is, look, you can't pull up Google without seeing 19 stories on the Sean Combs trial. It is fully underway. In the last couple of days, Cassie Ventura has been on the stand. Now, Cassie Ventura, she is in her third trimester of her pregnancy. As a matter of fact, she's due like in a week and a half. So she could have that baby at any time. Of course, she's testifying in this trial under an extreme amount of pressure, which can bring on a baby.
Yeah.
So it was interesting, Kelly, that yesterday during her testimony in this trial, the defense said, look, we're not exactly sure when we're going to have her off the stand. And the judge said, hold up. We've been talking about this for a month, and he was pretty pissed, quite frankly. He said, we've been discussing she was pregnant, and I told her she was going to be out of here by midday Friday. And I don't care what you have to do to make that happen, but we're out of here by midday on Friday with her.
I respect that too, because, having a baby is not as simple as people, I think, believe it to be, having done it multiple times. She's got a lot going on emotionally, physically, and then I'll say allegedly right now, but allegedly be a victim of horrendous.
Well, she was, videos are out there of her getting the crap beat out of her. So at minimum, she's definitely a victim of that.
Right. And then to be facing him in court just feet away. I just think a lot of people who can get on the stand who've experienced horrific situations and then just be feet away from the person who did that, and then to just stand your ground and talk about it. Not to mention the whole world's watching this. Right. How humiliating.
Well, it is. And, they shared a lot of text back and forth between Sean Combs and Cassie Ventura. And a lot of these are, I'm not out there and I can't see everybody's text. But when you text your wife or something, sometimes those are very personal. You're talking years of text back and forth between these two. Some of them very graphic that are now being read out loud in open court to, everybody in the world, essentially. Yeah. So it's really
just today,
tough.
Just putting yourself in someone's shoes, a victim's shoes. Just today, like I said, I was at the nail salon. I had a picture of what I wanted painted, and I handed it to my girl, and she said, okay, can I take this to go get your paint? I said, sure. Well, I thought she meant to turn around and just walk like right there to grab some paint, but she walked away around a wall with my phone. And the longer, and the longer I sat there, I was kind of like, I don't have anything to hide, but I kind of, my children, my family are, I don't need you just gone with my phone.
I don't want nobody having my phone, girl.
I was like, excuse me, could you ask her to bring my phone back? I'd like to have it. And the girl turns around and she goes, she doesn't want you taking her phone. I was like, oh, shit. Say it with your chest. And she brought it right back. And I was like, oh, I'm not trying to be ugly. That's, your private life.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I've had people, I'll take a picture of you. I'm like, not with my phone, you're not. I mean, I ain't going to say I got anything on there to hide, but I might.
Well, yeah.
I might.
I don't know what's going on in there.
26 years, girl. I might have some. Don't be swiping.
Look, anytime I hand my phone to people, they laugh, but I'll say, don't scroll.
Yeah. Don't be scrolling on my shit.
My phone, I know I look like a psychopath because I'll have pictures of my flowers in my yard. Then I'll have pictures of crime scenes. And then it'll switch to a Bible verse. Like, a hot ass mess is on this phone. I promise.
It's funny when you do what we do for a living, of course, with Unspeakable, a true crime podcast by Kelly Jennings and Exposed. When you do those things, you Google a lot of off the wall stuff. And the reason you're doing that is you have to have your research together to tell your story. But if somebody doesn't know what you do and they get a hold to your Google history, holy smokes, this person's psycho, this serial killer.
Yeah. Like I Googled
I research serial killers. I'm not one.
I researched something the other day that I thought, damn, if someone ever gets the search history, this one's weird. But it was kind of like when someone stabs someone through a certain artery, what's typical bleed out time? They, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Why are you Googling that, girl?
I'm telling you. I mean, you just never know. So wrap that up, the Sean Combs trial, they're slating it to be anywhere between 6 and 8 weeks total. We are wrapping up week 1 as we record this today. So they still got a long way to go.
All right. So a woman pleads guilty to charges related to attempted kidnapping at a Baton Rouge hospital. And so the woman was charged in connection with the attempted kidnapping of a baby from Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital. And she's taken a plea deal avoiding jail time. Dynasty Selman pled guilty to count 2 of unauthorized entry of a place of business. Under those circumstances, she is on active supervised probation for 3 years. In addition, she's required to continue all of the following: mental and psych treatment, engage in treatment and therapy, stay away from the hospital, effective decision-making course, anger management, and 50 hours of community service, as well as maintaining employment or student status. Because in March of 2024, Selman, who was only 21 years old at the time, was facing charges of attempted kidnapping and 7 counts of unauthorized entry of a business. According to Baton Rouge police, Selman cased Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital for weeks. Arrest documents reveal Selman fraudulently obtained a parent caregiver badge. Investigators say that the card allowed her to access certain floors and rooms of the hospital when she did not have a child. Court documents report that on February 19th and 20th of 2024, Selman was seen on the hospital security footage wearing a parent caregiver badge in the surgery wing of the hospital, which has restricted access. Jail records state the surgery wing is restricted to parents or caregivers with children undergoing surgery or guests of children undergoing surgery. Police confirmed none of those roles applied to Selman. On the night of February 21st, Selman allegedly rang the doorbell of the PICU after visiting hours and told staff she was there to visit. The staff did not recognize her as one of the patient's parents and explained that visiting hours were over. The staff member reportedly recognized Selman and saw her slowly walking past each patient's room looking inside. The staff member told Selman that visiting hours were over and escorted her out of the restricted area. An arrest report says that the next night, on February 22nd, she again rang the doorbell of the PICU, and the same staff member granted her access to the wing and immediately recognized her from the previous night. The staff member asked her who she was there to visit, and Selman said she was there visiting her nephew, but could not provide a room number or name of the patient, and was observed pretending to make a phone call and then later walking off and leaving the wing. While she was walking the floors of the hospital, she was able to find a room with a baby where the parents weren't present. So this baby is laying there, I guess I'll say unattended. I mean, I know the hospital's taking care of the child, but with no one there to give that extra set of eyes. And it was later learned that the baby was intensive care and the parents didn't live in Baton Rouge.
Right.
That puts a fear in me that a stranger could just walk in on my baby who's in intensive care. Oh my God. An affidavit said February 29th, Selman and her boyfriend went into the room of the 9-month-old patient that she did not know. Court documents say Selman told her boyfriend that the patient was her child, making him believe that he was the biological father. Police said Selman learned the child's medical history by reading the charts. So now she's taking HIPAA-protected information. On March 1st, the boyfriend became suspicious of the baby when he came to the hospital and saw the name on the door didn't match the name that Selman gave him. The boyfriend then told a family friend who's a nurse, and that's when police said the hospital learned that there was a security breach. Selman, her boyfriend went back to the hospital with his family, where they were confronted by security. Selman was asked for her ID and was asked to leave the hospital after they retrieved her access card. More than 2 weeks later, she was arrested in Shreveport, and authorities did confirm that the child was never taken out of the room. But it's kind of got to beg the question here. You've searched it out for weeks, and then you find a young child too, not a a teenager or an older, younger child, if that makes sense, a baby.
Well, either way. I mean, even if it was an older child, you can't make that shit up. No. She actually went in the room and told her boyfriend that was her baby.
And his.
And his.
If he didn't break up with her
well, I mean, that shit, I can't wrap my mind around being dumb enough that my girlfriend, out of the clear blue sky, says, "Oh, I had a baby." I mean, how the hell do you even wrap your head around what was going on in both of their minds? I don't blame him, and thank God he said something when he noticed the name on the door was wrong. But dude, did you buy that to begin with?
Well, this is where my thoughts go. This was probably not a legitimate boyfriend-girlfriend as I would assume boyfriend-girlfriend goes. Maybe this was more of like a convenience type of situation. Does that make sense? So maybe they hung out together with no clothes, and then they didn't see each other for a while, and then she claimed she was pregnant and had a baby, and now they're rekindling. So I think I understand where the judge went here, that she didn't hurt, thank God, she didn't hurt the child. She didn't actually physically remove the child. I think this is beyond just being a weirdo. This has got to be mental health related in some fashion or form. Now, if it was my child, I'd be losing my mind. So it's easy for me to sit back and say, I understand where the judge was coming from here. Hopefully, she'll get this mental health treatment. They will continue to monitor. I hope that there's a follow-up plan here to monitor, a check back in procedure process to ensure that something's being done, because that's not normal. No, and it's definitely not normal. Hospital, let me tell you, I was actually at this same hospital in the last couple of years with the child, and I arrived by ambulance with the child. And so I didn't have my purse. I didn't have my ID. I didn't have anything. But because I came in the ambulance, obviously I was given access to what was going on. Well, I left and went outside to take a breather and just collect my thoughts. And when I went to come back in, they would not let me in because I didn't have an ID. And I lost my mind because I'm like, I arrived here in an ambulance. What do you want me to do? Pull a license out of my ass? And I understood the security measure. I completely, for this type of reason, I understood the security measure, but it does make you wonder. I mean, I couldn't even get past the front door, and I arrived there with the child.
Right.
And but she did steal a badge. I mean, she did. This is beyond just not being where you're supposed to be. This type of person is scary to me. What was your long-term goals here?
She was going to take a child. That and I don't know that to be 100% fact, but I have a feeling that had her boyfriend not noticed the fact that the name was different on the door, I think at some point that was her plan. Why else would you make up this story that is so ridiculously obvious? Yeah,
it's
beyond me.
There's some serious mental health issues here, and I would feel obligated as a judge that I want to make sure that you're getting some type of help here, because if this ever escalated into something else, that's when children go missing.
Right.
And we can't allow that.
I agree. Well, let's go to South Carolina, and we're going to take you to our old friend Alec Murdaugh, or Alec as he's known by his friends. He just can't get out of the news. Now, I did a 30-episode series on Murdaugh on Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite, and I discussed the possibility of this happening. It has happened. Becky Hill, who was the clerk of court in the Murdaugh trial. She has been arrested and then released from jail after posting bond this past week following her arrest for alleged misconduct during that trial. Now, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, which we all know as SLED, on Wednesday afternoon announced that Hill, who is 57, has been charged with obstructing justice and misconduct in Colleton County and perjury in Richland County. She received a $30,000 bond in Colleton, a $50,000 bond in Richland, and these charges stem from a January 2024 hearing in the South Carolina Supreme Court where Justice Jean Toll, a very well-respected justice in South Carolina, ruled that a new trial was not necessary for Murdaugh, who was convicted in the June 2021 murders of his wife Maggie, his son Paul. Murdaugh had requested a new hearing based on allegations of jury tampering involving Becky Hill. So the long and the short of this is charging documents stated that when Toll asked Becky Hill, quote, "Did you allow anyone from the press to view sealed exhibits?" Hill responded, "No, ma'am," which is apparently inconsistent with evidence that has been attained by SLED. Lewis and Hill said Hill turned herself in Wednesday during a hearing in Colleton County, and she was booked into jail. She just got released. But here's the question to all of that. Murdaugh's in jail for the rest of his life. She is now charged with obstructing justice and misconduct in this trial, which is a pretty good argument that you didn't get a fair trial, especially when someone is criminally charged. Jean Toll did rule last year that although she found that the clerk of court had committed some infractions during that trial, it did not rise to the extent that it would warrant a new trial. In other words, she was saying even considering all of this tampering, it's still, there's so much evidence here, it wouldn't have changed the verdict. Right. See what happens. And you know, Murdaugh's attorneys are pushing now for that to be looked at again. So, yeah.
Hey everyone, let me tell you about my good friend Kelly. She's a proud Louisiana high school teacher from right here in the Bayou State. And in 2022, she launched Unspeakable, a true crime podcast by Kelly Jennings. Armed with a master's degree in criminal justice, her vast experience in law enforcement, and her sassy, fiery attitude, Unspeakable has risen to one of the top true crime podcasts globally. And I am proud to say she is one of my dear friends. Kelly, sum up your podcast for me.
On Unspeakable, I focus on the victims of the crimes and not the perpetrator. I want to be the victim's voice. That's why Victims First is not just a slogan for me. It's much more than that. And it's why I launched the podcast. And every case I cover centers around that belief. The victims matter. I draw from nearly 2 decades of experience in law enforcement to tell these stories. They are real crimes with real victims.
Unspeakable, a true crime podcast by Kelly Jennings, can be found wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting unspeakablethepodcast.com. Unspeakable is an Envision Podcast Studios production.
So let's go to the Menendez brothers now. And now they're eligible for parole after serving more than 30 years behind bars for the murder of their parents. So Eric and Lyle Menendez will be eligible to leave prison after serving more than 30 years behind bars for the vicious 1989 shotgun slayings of their parents, a Los Angeles judge ruled. The judge reduced the sentences for the killer's siblings, who are now 54 and 57 respectively, from life without parole to 50 years to life with the possibility of parole. It would now be up to the California Parole Board and Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom to decide if the brothers deserve freedom after they gunned down their wealthy parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, in their lavish Beverly Hills home on August 20th of 1989. And at the end of Tuesday's hearing, both brothers gave emotional accounts of the murders, which they claimed came after years of sexual abuse by Jose with Kitty's help. Here's a quote. "My choices that night robbed my parents of their full lives," said Eric, who was only 18 when he shot his parents. "I can only imagine the fear, the pain, and the trauma it caused my family." His older brother echoed that same sentiment. "I committed an atrocious act against 2 people who had the right to live, my mom and dad," Lyle said, appearing to fight tears back as he said it. I take full responsibility for my choices. I was 21 years old, and I believed I could fix what could not be fixed. Lawyers cross-examined several witnesses at Tuesday's hearing, including family members and one former inmate, who all insisted Lyle and Eric had learned the error of their ways and had redeemed themselves in prison. The brothers' cousin, Anna Maria Baralt, said that the pair had been universally forgiven by everybody in our family, insisting that they had been fully rehabilitated. I would welcome them into my home with my family, she said. Baralt added that should the brothers be granted parole, they plan to work as advocates for victims of sexual abuse. Deputy District Attorney Habib Balian argued that the brothers showed no insight to sticking to an absurd claim that they killed their parents in self-defense after years of sexual abuse. But their lawyer, Mark Garagos, insisted the brothers have undergone full transformations. Garagos highlighted prison hospice and green space programs spearheaded by Eric and Lyle, respectively. Rapper X-Rated testified about how the brothers had acted as his mentor when he was jailed for murder and guided him through his own parole process, helping him understand where and how he had gone wrong. He colloquially referred to the brothers' mentorship of other inmates as Menendez University. But Balian questioned Brown's remorse for his own crime and joked that the only thing he learned from the Menendez University was how to fool a parole board. In the end, Judge Michael Jessic sided with Garagos, the family members, and the brothers themselves, who delivered emotional statements of remorse at the end of the hearing. Now their fate lies with the state attorney general and Newsom. The final hearing of that state parole board has been scheduled for June 13th.
And if you recognize the name Mark Garagos, of course, celebrity attorney to the stars, and his daughter is the one of the attorneys on the Sean Combs case. Mm-hmm. Not only that, but Mark Garagos is also an advisor. He's not an official attorney, but an advisor to Sean Combs' team. Tells you how powerful he is. And look, hey, in this case, he's got these guys. What do you think?
Okay. Hey, a lot of people don't agree with me, but I stand on business on this one. I don't agree with that whatsoever. I don't think just because time has gone by that fixes what was done. I have followed this case extensively. I've done an episode on this one, and there was so much planning, preparation. They wanted them to die. They killed them. And I don't believe the older brother at all that he was sexually abused. Not at all. Not an ounce of it do I personally believe. The younger brother, I'm a little more inclined just because of body language and a whole lot of other things. I won't go down the whole path here, but I'll say that it didn't say you get parole. It said you're eligible for parole. And I've seen cases, because if you're not familiar with me, I worked at Angola, and I've seen cases of inmates that 100% behind bars have done amazing things. Okay, they are part of that hospice program. They're part of these other programs that they put on that look good and make the heart feel good. However, those inmates aren't being given another chance. You know why? Because you should have a good heart to begin with. And you get in these programs behind bars because you get more freedoms. I just don't buy this whole thing, because I saw the crime scene photos. I saw the planning and the preparation, and that's flat out cold-blooded murder what happened.
Well, and I don't think the Menendez brothers deny that. I think what they deny, or what they're saying, is they were molested, and that's why they did it.
I don't believe. I don't believe Lyle.
Yeah, well, and that's a whole nother story.
They went outside, reloaded their shotguns, and came back in. Mm-hmm. And while their mother was crawling underneath a table, already wounded, blew her away.
Yeah,
35 years means nothing to me. And I'm glad your family has forgiven you, because time does aid in the grief process. But the accusation of the molestation was never like a slam dunk that this happened. It was never a slam dunk. It was an allegation that was brought up, just like Casey Anthony brought up the allegation of sexual abuse. And she walked and you know what all society knows about that.
Yeah,
Give me a break.
There's no doubt about it. I think in that case, just from what I can recall, there were allegations outside of just the Menendez brothers with molestation with that guy.
Which, hey, all of that may be true. I'm not saying that isn't true, but I'm saying that these guys were old enough to walk away. If your life was that bad, you're 20 fucking 1 years old. Walk out the door. but they wouldn't have gotten the benefits and kept that lifestyle. When the police showed up, and I'm getting a little impassioned here, but when the police showed up after they blew 2 people away with shotguns, all they really asked was, can we get our tennis rackets?
Would it have changed your opinion if there was 100% proof they were molested?
Yes.
Okay.
It would, because then we have people acting in a manner where there's a buildup over time, and then I understand explosive behavior. Now, would I still have convicted them of murder? 100%.
Yeah.
But
they don't deny the murder.
Right. The sentencing would have been different, not the conviction. Let me say that. Hey, give us some feedback, though. I mean, maybe you do agree. Maybe you disagree. Either way, that's the conversation. You know,
that's right.
Where do we stand on this?
That's right. All right, we're going to stay in California, I guess, for this one. And, I hate these stories. A former 6th grade teacher has been sentenced to 30 years to life in prison for sexually abusing 2 of her young former students. Now, her name is Jacqueline Ma, and she was named one of the Teachers of the Year. This was in 2022. She taught at what's known as Lincoln Acres Elementary School in San Diego. She pleaded guilty in February to 2 counts of forcible lewd acts on a child, 1 count of lewd act on a child, and 1 count of possessing child sexual abuse. So Ma, who is 36, was arrested after a mother of one of her former students accused her of sending inappropriate messages to her son. San Diego DA Summer Stevens said in a statement, quote, "The defendant violated the trust she had with her students in the most extreme and traumatic way possible. Her victims will have to deal with a lifetime of negative effects, and her 30-year sentence is appropriate." The DA stated in a press release that Ma groomed one of her minor students for more than a year before performing sexual acts on him at the age of 12. After the boy's parents didn't allow him to have social media or electronics, Ma set up an unsanctioned after-school program and directed him to communicate with her through a school chat application. The sex abuse continued in the classroom for 3 months while the boy's parents were unaware. In 2020, Ma sexually assaulted another boy who was 11 at the time. She continued to groom both young boys with gifts, food, and special attention. She eventually gained the trust of the parents with her reputation and personal investment in their academic development. She began teaching at Lincoln Acres High School. This was in 2013, and she was actually named by the San Diego County Office of Education as the Teacher of the Year in 2022. And look, San Diego, big school district there. You're not talking about 1 or 2, 3 major schools in that district. You're talking hundreds of schools in that district. So a standout teacher from a respect level, it sounds like. Following her arrest in 2023, prosecutors alleged that Ma sent explicit images to the student and coerced him to send explicit videos back. The judge said in court before sentencing that the former teacher was protected from scrutiny due to her status as that Teacher of the Year. Ma also addressed her crimes in court, saying, quote, "I disgraced the teaching profession, abused my authority, exerted my power and control over them, and deceived them. I ripped away their childhood." And the sentencing comes after Ma pleaded guilty to all of those allegations in February.
And I'm of the opinion that she did this on purpose, okay? Because if you have kids whose parents have taken away their electronics, so the parents think that they are controlling any type of social media or online or content communication, now she's got a victim that the parents aren't going to be checking up because they think they've taken it.
Yeah.
And you got to think devious to catch devious like this. Then you're going to set up that after-school program, which, by the way, it does say is was not allowed. Then that's just a problem. And they're 12. That's another thing.
And 11.
11 and 12 years old.
Babies, practically.
Disgusting. Yeah. Absolutely disgusting. And I want to tell any parent out there about this. School districts, and I know the one that I work for specifically, has a policy in place that there is to be zero communication between a teacher and a child through their cell phone. It should always be going through a third party that is a monitored communication, either website, or we used to have a thing called Remind. It's a Remind app which parents can log into and they can see. You give parents access to it.
And in this case, she was using a school chat application.
Well, that was flying under the radar then.
100%.
You know.
Yeah, they just didn't catch it. No one sits there and reads them. Apparently.
No, I mean, but this is going to give us the proof that we need, which is the point. But I understand sometimes when the kids are older and they're in high school, maybe the coaches will text and say, hey, we're meeting here instead of the track. You know, a group type message. But I would never be okay with a one-on-one with a teacher or any adult for that matter, texting my child that is young and it not be for legitimized purposes. You know, even whenever on school campus, if a male student came into my classroom, they would shut the door. Like if they were coming to make up a test, I'd say, go open that door.
Yeah.
That's just the way the world should work.
I agree. And
that's sick.
In this case, you see this a lot. And I have a whole series called Bad Teachers, and I cover these cases. It is an absolute epidemic right now. But I'll say something about this. This case is not the norm. This chick actually got what she deserved, 30 years to life.
Yeah.
Most get probation. And I'm not kidding you. Go listen to that series if you don't believe me. Most of these female teachers get very little time, a couple of years, a slap on the wrist, because especially when it deals with high school, which I suspect this kid was 12 in the 6th grade. So it was probably viewed a little more serious. But when you're talking 9th, 10th, 11th grade boys, and it's a female teacher, an attractive teacher, in a lot of cases, it is not punished as it should, and I think that's why it's such an epidemic.
And that tearful apology, if I was that child's parent, means nothing to me.
I agree.
Nothing. Stay the hell away from the kids. Now, let me tell you something else you ought to stay the hell away from, and that's going to be a kangaroo. All right? Because we're going to South Carolina. The brother of a South Carolina petting zoo owner was apparently beaten to death by a kangaroo after possibly going into the Aussie animal's pen to quote-unquote roughhouse with it. Eric Slate's body was...
Holy smokes.
Yeah. Eric Slate's body was discovered inside the facility just before midnight on Friday night at 5 Star Farm near Loris, about 30 miles north of Myrtle Beach. Slate, who was 52, had a history of stepping into the kangaroo enclosure and roughhousing with it. The kangaroo was still in its enclosure at the family-owned farm when Slate's body was found. The farm recently posted a picture of a large red kangaroo named Mr. Jack, adding he loves neck scratches and will take treats from your hands. It's not clear which animal killed Slate, but he was found with multiple blunt force injuries. Adult male red kangaroos can weigh nearly 200 pounds and grow up to 5 foot 11 inches tall with powerful feet for kicking. In 2022, an elderly man was kicked by his pet kangaroo in Western Australia, but that was believed to be the first time a roo killed a person in nearly 90 years in the country. 5 Star Farm offers an interactive petting zoo with exotic animals including camels, wallabies, and kangaroos, owner Robert Slate wrote on Facebook. Please keep my family in your thoughts and prayers. The kangaroo is not aggressive and has not been euthanized, Causey added. It's not an aggressive animal. It's very sad. It's not the animal's fault, he said. Experts are coming in this week to ensure the enclosure is safe and that the animal is okay. South Carolina has some of the loosest restrictions in the U.S. on the ownership of exotic animals, and it is one of only 3 states where kangaroo ownership isn't prohibited.
Wow. And let me tell you something. Kangaroos are no freaking joke. Kangaroos are bowed up, man. You see some of them kangaroos, and look, I know we got a lot of Aussie people that listen to our shows, and they know this firsthand. They got biceps bigger than Mike Tyson.
And abs. I saw one headbutting and bumping into a mirror, and long claws.
Yes. They will tear you up. I saw a video on, it might have been YouTube or something, but a kangaroo had a dog in a headlock.
In the river or a lake or something?
No, this was in a yard. Oh. He had the dog in a headlock, and he was basically beating that dog's ass.
Yeah. And
the homeowner went up, and literally they went fisticuffs right there, and the homeowner punched the roo, in the face, and the Roo hopped off.
That's what I saw, but it was trying to drown this guy's dog in a waterway, and he squared up and he punched it, and the kangaroo's flabbers were gassed. I mean, he was just flabbergasted. The kangaroo kind of looked. He looked back at the man like, I know you didn't just punch my ass, but the dog ran off, and the man got out the water. But this is the thing about animals. That's a wild animal, regardless of whether it's been domesticated or not. And
I know you ain't saying that.
I am.
Miss pick up wild. You would have a Roo in a heartbeat. Oh, look how cute.
Listen, but I would also not keep it as an adult. I would save it, put a cast on its leg and feed it a strawberry or something. Exactly. But then you going on your way. But I watched a video of this man, and I'm sorry that he's deceased, and that's terrible. But it really is. I watched some video of him going in the pen, and he liked to kind of slap and roughhouse with it to try to make it kind of box back with him. Yeah. And I probably am going to say that this animal was instigated, and I think any gentle person even, You push them enough, they're capable of fighting back, and I think that's just what happened here.
Horrible situation with that.
It made me think, though, real quick about the whole 1 ape versus 100 men argument. Have you seen that? So everyone's like, what would win, one gorilla or versus 100 men? And people are either saying the gorilla or the men. Okay. And so I started thinking about that here, and I'm like, if a kangaroo can kill you and one powerful gorilla's going to shred you.
It'd grab you and with no effort rip your arm off the shoulder.
And the other 99 behind you.
Yeah. I went to a zoo one time. They have one in Louisiana that you can actually get close to the animals. Used to be in Lafayette. I don't know if it's still open, but went to this zoo and they had a silverback gorilla. And this silverback gorilla would be like almost nose to nose with you. It was like, is this legal? But it was cool. Yeah. But let me tell you, that silverback gorilla was a monster. And they are so powerful. It could grab me with its finger, and I'm not a little guy. It could rip my arm completely off in about 2 seconds. They are not to play with.
Hands down. So
some of them animals, it's graduation time. Yeah. Not just for college, though. High schools are graduating all over the country. And if you're a mom or a dad and you're graduating that high school senior right now, some of them are going to be going off to college. Now, there's some crimes that you may want to warn them about in their college years. And I have the 10 most common crimes that college students are arrested for. And so I'm going to see if KJ, how many of these she can actually rattle off, and I'm going to cross them off as she does it. So give me the 10 most common student offenses that you can think of.
All right. I would start with minor in possession, underage drinking, something like that.
Okay.
I would go trespassing. I would say probably some vandalism. I don't know if drunk driving would count there, but I don't know if that would be necessarily a top one. Fighting, so assault outside the bars. Mm-hmm. I would say like drunken disorderly type stuff, I would think would be on there. Live on campus, I mean, there's curfew.
You've gotten 4 right. So disorderly conduct is number 1. Okay. Underage drinking is number 2. Possession of marijuana.
Oh, yeah.
Number 3.
Oh, yeah.
Drag racing. They are the wealthiest among us and have no limits to what they will do to keep that power until they are exposed. I'm your host, Jim Chapman, and I uncover and expose the secrets of the rich and famous. Stories they don't want told to hold the elite accountable. Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite is available wherever you get your podcast. Follow and subscribe today. All right, until next time, I am Jim Chapman.
I'm Kelly Jennings.
And we still don't have a way that we're going to close out this show yet. I'm trying to think of something cute, so I'm just going to say thank you for listening to Crime
Wire Weekly.
Boom!
No, that
perfect.
Was...